What is your best sorry wrong number moment? Whoever used to have my number still uses it on forms and stuff. I get calls for debt collectors, dentists, etc. One day, I get a call from a bail bondsman. This lady's boyfriend has skipped bail, and she's on the hook for 50k. Scared the crap out of me. I have one of those numbers. For 10 years debt collectors and police have called. Every time they say they'll make a note that it's not a number, someone else will call a bit later. She's still using my number. I woke up to a massive string of texts accusing me of being the man that was cheating with someone's girlfriend or wife. I'm a woman. I didn't work at the place mentioned. They were super apologetic when I text them back in the morning on the plus side. I've had a few. I got my own cell line once I hit 18, pretty much, and the number I got used to belong to a woman named Sandra. I know she was pregnant as I had gotten calls from strangers congratulating me on it, and after realizing I had no idea what they were on about, would ask if I had her new number. Dumb request, emo, but I mostly ignored it. I also got voicemail a few times from her place of work, and one sounded very serious. From what I could gather, she was a nurse, or at least worked at a hospital, and they were trying to get her to cover a shift. I called back trying to be helpful, but the person who answered was mostly annoyed. I got a call within the last year asking to speak about my son and how he's in trouble. I'm assuming the same kid from almost a decade ago is getting into trouble at school. Why they listed such an old number, I don't know. Lastly, I still get calls for her and her husband's prescriptions. No idea how many times I called to correct them, but Franz and Sandra have some set up for auto refill. I haven't gotten a reminder in a few weeks, so maybe a pharmacist spoke to them finally. It was actually a voicemail left on my work phone. It was a woman going on and on about how the intended recipient was a very naughty boy and he deserved a spanking. I was mortified and deleted it after a few minutes, but I should have kept it. In hindsight, it was hilarious. You were very naughty for deleting it. Back when I was a kid, we lived 3,000 miles away from our grandparents, so we didn't get to see them very often. One evening the phone rang. I answered and had a really nice chat with my grandma for about 10 minutes. She called me the wrong name to say goodbye and I was confused and we both realized she'd dialed the wrong number. Now you have two grandmas. Had a whole party call my number and sing me happy birthday over the phone. I didn't have the heart to stop them midway, so I stayed quiet until the end. Sorry guys, but my birthday is in December, not June. We had a good laugh about it and that was that. Something like this happened to me as a kid. For whatever reason, my sister and I weren't with our dad on his birthday, so we called him, screamed our parent-child love for him, and sang happy birthday. Then this random dude goes wrong number and hangs up. Literally today I called the wrong number trying to set up a dental appointment. Old lady on the other line, well I guess I could get my husband to work on your teeth if you want. He's not a dentist or anything though. Old people are blessed. Someone phoned my parents' landline, in tears, saying that they had proof that my husband was having an affair with his girlfriend. I explained that I was 14 and my parents were in their 40s. He apologized for having the wrong number and hung up. This was around 17 years ago. I remember getting a wrong number call a few days ago. They introduced themselves in a very intimidating manner, stating that everything spoken over the phone would be recorded and used against me in court. But then they asked for Rebecca and I mentioned that they had the wrong number. Their tone of voice completely changed afterwards and they apologized and hung up. I wonder if the actual Rebecca could have done this to get rid of this caller. One time when I was about 11 years old, my mom wanted me to call my grandma and read off a recipe for pound cake, because my grandma wanted to make one. I dialed the number. Someone answered. Then I promptly started reciting the recipe my mom gave me. When I got to the end, the person snorted and said, "Oh, I think you have the wrong number." I said I was sorry and hung up, LOL. This made me laugh out loud. Whenever someone called AT&T's 411 info line and asked for the time of day for Seattle, Washington, they would get connected with my cell phone number. I got so many voicemails of old people who were I got tired of answering my phone saying IDKY they listed my number but the time is 1:30 PM. The AT&T guy thought I was insane trying to explain until I made him call and when I answered I was like YEPPP, it's me. I was working retail at a pet store and got a phone call from an old lady asking to pay her phone bill. She said she had been transferred twice now, and, yes, this had happened before. I told her I was working on a pet store in Alaska, as to which she was very angry. How dare you lie to me? I have been talking to phone company in Florida, and now you want me to believe I'm talking to a pet store in Alaska. I told her yep. I have no clue how you got transferred to me, but what is your name and number, and what service are you trying to get done? She gave me her name and phone number, and told me that she was just trying to pay an overdue bill on a different phone so she could use her phone again. I checked with her to make sure what company she was calling. I told her I need to check something and I'd be right back. I looked up the company on my computer at work, and called. They asked what I wanted and I asked if I could just be transferred to a manager as it would be easier to explain. I explained that I had a customer who had been trying to call and was transferred. The manager knew the account and the lady, and I asked if he could give the gal a call on her landline which I had gotten, and they agreed they would within a few minutes. I hung up, took the lady off of hold, and told her something akin to, "Hey, so I got the phone company to agree to call your landline and you should be able to pay that way. If they don't follow through, here's my personal cell line, and let me know." She said thanks and hung up. About a half hour later I get a text from a number in Florida that says, "Hey, my phone works again. Thank you." And I send a picture back of me standing in front of the pet store with snow and mountains in the background, saying, "Glad we here in Alaska could help." The Wholesome Alaskan Pet Store sounds like a good title for something. I got a call that said restricted number. I don't usually answer unknown numbers but this one I was too curious. Me. Hello? Caller. Is this Detective Angles? Me. Ooh. Caller. Detective Angles. Me. That is. Not me. Caller. Long pause. Are you a detective? Me. No. Caller. Okay then. And she hung up. No laughter. She sounded dead serious. Clearly an adult on the other end. It was so bizarre. I got a text on my new phone that said "Wide BB girl?" I replied I'm pregnant. Phone rang in like 2 seconds. He was P when a guy answered the phone and told me I was in butthole for making him panic. But don't worry, it's not yours. It's your father's. Someone kept messaging me looking for a Sarah, to the point where it was freaking annoying. Took a picture of me shirtless. I am fat and build like a freaking gorilla. Lots and lots of body hair. Holding a beer. The next text I got searching for Sarah. I sent it to them. They never messaged back. Mayor you mad lad. My half sister Kathy was about 18 months at the time. Someone called my dad's landline phone in the 70s and asked if Kathy was there. My dad replied yes. Then the caller asked what she was doing. My dad replied, "She's running down the hall with her clothes off." Some poor girl probably had to explain to her boyfriend that she wasn't running around with her clothes off. My friend has something happen to him. Wrong number guy looking for someone with my friend's son name. So he replies, "Sure, he's right here," and just handed off the phone to the baby son, who promptly started chewing on the phone while we could hear the caller in the background. When I first got my current phone number, it took about 6 months before all of the previous owner's contacts had called me once and realized he changed numbers. I am 99% sure he sold pot, but he wasn't anyone's go-to dealer. He was the emergency my usual guy's out. Are you holding weed guy? They always had some weird code word for what they wanted in the time it took me to explain this was my number now. I'll never forget the guy who called up and said, "Yeah, my usual guy's out, man. I'm looking for turtle food. I like turtles." I once misdialed and got a very upper class gentleman. I asked for my friend and he said, "I think you've dialed a wrong number." I replied, "Oh, what number have I dialed?" Quick as lightning he said, "I don't know, I'm not there," and hung up. I stared at the handset for a solid 30 seconds trying to figure out how I'd been checkmated in the conversation so effectively and so quickly. Well played, sir. Well played. He's probably been waiting for a long time to use that one. Not best. Actually heartbreaking but definitely most memorable. Years ago I got a new number and within the first few days I got a text from an unknown number saying I love and miss you. I figured someone's ex was texting, but who knows? They could be the reason the last person gave up my new number, so I just ignored it. Not my drama. The texts continued to come but not a lot and usually just I love you and miss you, so I just ignore it and keep going with my days. One day a long paragraph came in from this number, explaining a lot. This poor girl broke down and said she was hurting too bad. She had become lost since the death and she just wants it to end. She said she can't keep going when the love of her life was ripped from her. Yeah, so I had apparently gotten her partner's phone number after he was killed in a freak accident. She was messaging him in her grief. I replied to her and said I don't mean to butt in on something so personal. I'm just the person with a new phone number, but please don't give up. To say I startled her when the number replied to her would probably be an understatement. She apologized saying she didn't know the number had been recycled so fast. I told her I didn't mind at all and I was so sorry for her loss and I was there if she needed to talk. She did. She told me about him, about them and about his accident. She told she messaged his number when she was at her weakest points and wanted a connection. We talked about her and what her goals had been. We talked about how much he would have wanted her to continue on for both of them. How giving up isn't the answer and he wouldn't have wanted that. How therapy can really help and how she can honor his memory while living on. After a bit she thanked me for taking the time to talk to her. I never got another text from her number, but I've always hoped she continued on and made the best of her life. My heart still hurts for her loss. Having now found the love of my life, I don't even want to imagine the pain she was facing. Dude, that's sad, but it was really cool of you to help them. I hope they are doing alright now. I had one once that kept asking for various people, the answers to which were, no he doesn't live here, no she doesn't live here etc etc. It was definitely a they're all dead Dave moment. The call vaguely ended with the plonker getting the hump at me for having the wrong number. My mother-in-law gets a call and is chatting away for several minutes. She gets off and we ask who it was. It was a wrong number. She likes to be friendly. Or, she's having an affair with a guy at some telesales place in town. His name's Jeremy, and he's got a voice like a Rolls Royce running on honey. In like 2004 when I was under 18, some girl sent me a picture of her tea. I don't think the term sexting was even part of the lexicon. Camera phones were still pretty new and phone were dumb. It was pretty awesome. Surprise tea are the best. I got a call in college, back when we had landlines, from some guy asking for Amanda. I'm not Amanda. He got kind of sad and explained that some girl named Amanda gave him a fake number, and I sat and talked to him for a few minutes where he sobbed about how lonely he was and how he really felt like he connected with this girl Amanda, but she didn't feel the same way obviously. I talked to him for about 15 minutes then had to leave for work. Felt really bad for the guy. Fast forward a year. At that point I had a new number. Again a landline. Guy calls and asks for Tammy. I'm not Tammy. Then he launches into this story about how he really felt like he connected with Tammy and she must have given him a wrong number. Apparently Guy was just going through the phone book looking for women to feed this sob story to, so he'd talk to him for a few minutes. One time I got a call from an unknown number and I decided to answer it. Might as well, you know? Anyway I answered. Hello? Who I but was cut off by the exasperated woman on the other line. Sorry, I just need to vent right now. They clearly thought I was someone else, but it's weird they didn't speed dial the number in their contacts. They went on to explain their day, which was certainly below average. I won't go into too much detail out of respect, and because I don't remember too much. It did involve a co-worker hitting on her in a way she wasn't comfortable with and bakery items meant for someone special getting smashed and soaked in street water. After she was done she took a breath and I told her that I wasn't who she meant to call. But what happened sounded like it sucked. She did seem surprised. She was asked where I lived. Not like that. And I said Arizona. She said she lived there too, which was a shock. Fast forward 6 months and we still talk sometimes. Keep in touch. Sometimes random phone people can mean a lot to someone. In the early 90s our home phone number was off by 1 digit from a local movie theater. People called all the time so we'd give them the correct number. I remember one time a guy asked us to just read him the show's times from the newspaper anyway. When I was in my 20s, I met a guy, let's call him Jay, while out with friends. He gave me his number, landline, and I called him a few days later. Turns out he gave me his friend's phone number. We will call the friend C. I ended up chatting with C via phone for several days and we made plans to go out. I hadn't even seen what he looked like, but he was just really funny and we really enjoyed talking. C told Jay what happened with the calls. Met up with C and he was super handsome and so fun. We ended up dating for about a year and Jay ended up becoming a good friend. 20 plus years later, I am still friends with both Jay and C is married now and his wife was my daughter's first grade teacher. Wholesome. Some lady kept calling me and asking for her brother in Spanish. Fortunately, I happen to speak a little Spanish. After a while, I figured out that she was calling the wrong area code, but by then she had told me that she was a single mother with a daughter. So, I would ask about her daughter and how she was doing in school. I have a different phone number now. I hope they are doing alright. I had this man text me asking me out to my work number. I explained that he had the wrong number, and that I'm just some guy who sells software. He was all "don't play me like that girl," so I sent back a pic of me, all male with my beard etc. He insists that I just googled that image, and texts me for 6 months. Trying to convince me to go out with him. TBH, I kinda looked forward to the texts cause it was so funny. You should taken him up on the offer. Maybe you could have gotten a free drink at least. My landlady once sent this obscene joke via text and then called a few minutes later with horror in her voice to apologize profusely. A friend of hers was the contact below me, so she accidentally sent the text to the wrong one. Not your classic sorry wrong number moment. When I was maybe 14, I got a phone call from some woman who wanted to call her boyfriend husband. I told her she's got the wrong number. Then she called me again, and again, and again. She became convinced that I'm her boyfriend's husband's friend who he gave his phone to in order to cover for him. Then she threatened to call the police on me. Then she stopped. Weird. Imagine being so crazy that your boyfriend husband gives you a fake number. I made someone else say sorry wrong number. Someone called me. I was in the mood to troll, and the person calling was a telemarketer trying to sell water toys, water guns, slides, balloons, etc. I asked the dimensions of the water gun nozzles, then fake asked the person next to me, without covering the microphone, how big their dong was in comparison. They hung up. This is the perfect comment. A few years ago, a very famous, and TBH dang good looking, let's call him CL French swimmer got pranked during a TV show by one of his friends. The friend was sitting in the public and at some point, raised a panel saying CL personal phone 06xxxxxxxxx. Apparently, my friend's phone number differed only by 1 digit. He got literally dozens of very hot messages and calls during several weeks after that. A man and his new girlfriend stole something from the man's ex-wife. The ex-wife called him about it and he hung up on her. In her haste to call him back, she accidentally dialed my number. She then spent the next minute arguing with me that it was not the wrong number, that I was the new girlfriend and was just pretending to not know her. She threatened to call the cops to get her property back and then hung up. Not the best, but definitely the craziest. A few years ago my mom started getting texts and dozens of calls an hour from this lady who was yelling about how my mom slept with her baby daddy. It was definitely not my mother. The lady was calling her a different name and said that her baby daddy and the girl he cheated with worked at Dennis. My mother explained like 10 times that she was a 60-year-old nurse who was definitely not sleeping with anyone's baby daddy, but the lady would not leave her alone. It was a huge problem because my mom was on call and couldn't just turn off her phone. At the time my mom had an old phone, so we had to call Verizon to get her number blocked. Thankfully these days blocking a number is as simple as hanging up and hitting the block button. So I asked for my friend's number. He had just got a new phone, so he didn't exactly have it memorized. He gave me a number and I typed "Mantis man requires blood" to him as a joke. There was no response. About a week later, I asked him if he got the text. He didn't. This is when I realized I was either given or typed in the wrong number. He gave me his actual number and I texted the stranger sorry wrong number. A week after saying Mantis Man requires blood, I'm just happy he didn't respond. I still have the random bloke's contact too. It could be an invalid number. Messages still did go through but calls don't. Shortly after I moved into my house in 1995 and had a landline installed, I got a wrong number on the answering machine. It was from a real estate agent that said I was looking for previous owner of the number that happened to live in my father's neighborhood. But now that I see I have reached Sam Spock SR's son, would you be interested in? He called for someone else and knew who my father was. Creepy. I texted my friend the Grapefruit BJ video that we always watch to cheer us up, and apparently he had gotten a new number. Freaking hilarious. The what? So I was around 12 with not even a smartphone. It was those phones with a built-in keyboard that slides. I got a call when I was home alone from a random number. It was like a guy like fairly young I think yelling at me saying I know you cheated you b why did you do it. I told him he had the wrong number and he said liar don't act dumb now. You know I know where you live right? I'm going to ducking kill you and your ducking family you be. As a 12-year-old girl, I was horrified he actually was going to kill me. He obviously never did but still. Me being home alone then didn't help either and I was too scared to tell my parents. There's a doctor at a major hospital who I think doesn't understand how phones work, who calls my little biotech company several times a month looking for a Dr. Thaddeus with no last name. Since I'm the only Thaddeus at my company they always put the call through or take a message for me, and I keep having the same conversation with the same doctor that no, I didn't just call her about a patient, that I'm not a doctor, and I have no idea why she has my company's number. I stopped getting robocalls for health insurance when I told them I wouldn't qualify because I'm terminally ill. I'm not. Dude messaged me looking for someone called Jim and asking if I had the ticket for the forklift and I messaged back to inform him that he had the wrong number, to which he replied by telling me to stop freaking about. He called me and was surprised and apologetic when I, a then 17-year-old girl, didn't sound like Jim. You know something? I have probably wrong number messaged about 3 different people asking for that exact thing. None of them were you. Considering one didn't respond and the other 2 were both dudes, it would have been quite the coincidence if you were someone I had. But even then I find it funny that I find someone mentioning such a specific thing in a thread like this. About 3 years ago I got a text from someone who was wishing their aunt Merry Christmas, along with some venting about the family. After I let him know he had the wrong number he apologized but still wished me a Merry Christmas. Fast forward to the next Christmas, same thing happens from the same guy. A couple years later it happens yet again. So now I'm kinda looking forward to my 2020 Merry Christmas text from him. And then you'll start taking and find out there's a lot in common between you two and you become drinking buddies. I had some stranger text me on my new phone number, so I told them that they had the wrong person. That didn't stop them from trying to call me several times over the span of a week and messaging me to pick up the phone. I once again told them to stop bothering me, that I am not the person they were looking for. They still didn't believe me, even sent me a text that read no wonder you are divorced. After that I just blocked them as the calls were getting annoying. When I was little, someone called for my mother. I answered the phone. The caller asked for my mother's name, me not realizing it was for my mom. Number. Wrong number. Bye. Our kids are fucking stupid. I got a call a few years ago. I said hello. A woman on the other end of the phone said hey, Mike. Can I talk to Sandra? I almost said they had the wrong number and then I just said she can't come to the phone right now. She's in the bathroom taking a really nasty crap. Can I take a message? She paused for a while and then said no, I will just call her back later. I have a funny one from about 12 years ago. On mobile blah blah. I sent my stepmom some flowers for Mother's Day, and the day before delivery I realized I never updated their lot number in my contact list. So I called my father from my phone contact list. Dude answers and I was in a panic. Then he's like, who is this and why are you calling me on my son's phone? What mom? Turns out, the phone gremlins played a prank and I was connected to this random dude and his caller ID showed his son was calling. The both of us got quite a laugh out of it and commiserated about how tech was supposed to make life easier. We hung up. I got a hold of my dad on the next try, and he was able to let the nice people who were staying on Fire Old Lot number know, so they delivered the flowers to my stepmom. Thanks for the walk down memory lane. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.